It's Brad with GeorgiaProbateResource.com. Today I'm going to talk about sensitive subject, and that subject is grief. First of all, I'm not an expert in emotions. I'm not an LPC. We do have a fantastic article, a few articles that are written over on our website. We'll put a link to that below from a licensed counselor who wrote about grief. And I wanted to talk about this today because I was having this discussion with a friend of mine the other day who's also an investor. He's in the real estate space. He also does probate and inheritance stuff, although that's not his main focus like in my case. But one of the things we were talking about grief. And the reason we were talking about grief is because I'm going through a personal situation in my own life that is extremely tough and stressful. We have not yet lost the loved one, but we know that it's coming. And emotionally preparing yourself for that is difficult. And for me and my other people in my life that are close, we're all sort of taking this differently. And in the death of a loved one, everyone takes things differently. And grief shows itself in so many different facets. Everyone shows grief differently. Everyone deals with grief differently. Some people can deal with it quickly. Some people can deal with it over time. It shows differently in every person. And you can't criticize someone else. Think you know how they need to handle their grief, because you need to let them handle grief in their own way, because everyone does it differently. And I was watching a new show the other night on TV, and it got me to think about this. And this was like an interesting tactic. Granted, this was from TV. This was for comedic value, but it actually made sense in that you need to allow yourself to feel all the feelings. Sometimes in life, we're told to sort of hide things. And I've always been that kind of person where I sort of bury stuff, compartmentalize stuff. It's not good to do that, actually. And also, before we get any further, don't be afraid to seek out a therapist. Don't be afraid to go talk to someone. I was always kind of that person that's like, oh, I don't need a therapist. I can deal with this on my own. I can get on the internet and I can read all these things and I can practice all these things. But what I can tell you, after having done some therapy myself, I was having a tough time a few years ago, and I went to a therapist for just like a few months, just to talk to somebody for a few months. And it was amazing at how much that helped me. And again, I was always that tough guy that I don't need to show my emotions. And if you know me, I'm kind of like a very stoic person. If you'd ask my siblings, they think I'm very sort of stoic. When that tough time I was going through in my life a few years ago, I went to a counselor for a few months. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 months. And actually, ultimately, I got to the point where the counselor said, look, you don't need to see me anymore. I think you're good. Like, you've sort of worked through this. I was just in this rut personally, and from my business perspective, from just a lot of personal things. Like, I was just sort of in this rut. I wouldn't call it depressed. Maybe some might call it depression, but it wasn't terrible. Like, it was manageable, and I wasn't doing anything destructive. Like, I was just sort of just down, right? And I went and talked to somebody for a few months, and man, did that help so much. So the reason I say that is because given the situation that I'm personally going through at the moment, with someone that I love that has a terminal illness, I started going back to therapy last week, and it's really good to talk to somebody about it. Just my one session I've had so far with that person has lifted the burden off of me that I felt like I had on me. And it's super helpful. So please, if you're going through something like this and you're grieving the death of a loved one, don't be afraid to go talk to somebody and I don't mean just go talk to your friend. I mean, like, go to a therapist. Maybe you do 1 session, maybe you do 2 sessions, 3 sessions, whatever you can afford, whatever you feel comfortable with. Just go do it. Don't be that tough guy. Like, just go out and do it. And you will be glad that you did it, and no one's going to judge you for doing that. Like, just do it. Okay. So anyways, I'm going to get back to the point I was making with this show. I started watching this new show on Apple TV, and it's, at least in my sense of humor, is hilarious. which is called Shrinking. It is Harrison Ford is in it, and Jason, I can't remember Jason's last name, but he was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall was a movie he was in. Anyways, it's hilarious. And he is a therapist, and Harrison Ford is a therapist in the show. And one of the tactics that Harrison Ford's character talks about to deal with grief was go turn on a sad song and turn on your timer on your phone for 15 minutes and cry and scream and whatever you need to do to feel all those feelings for that 15 minutes, and just do that. Go out somewhere by yourself, whatever, and just do that. And when that timer goes off, then your 15 minutes is up and you can click back to whatever you were doing before. But if you do that every day and you give yourself that time to do that thing, I thought that was like pretty, and again, this is on TV. This is like obviously for comedic value, but it sounded super helpful. And maybe it's going to help somebody, maybe it doesn't. But it is important, and I've kind of learned this going through some counseling, that you do need to feel the feelings, and you do need to express the feelings, and you need to go through that as part of the grieving process. Make sure you're doing that, and if your loved one is going through that, don't judge them, be supportive of them, let them. Now, obviously, there might be a point where your loved one might start to exhibit some destructive behaviors, and obviously in that case, you might want to help them get some help in terms of the destructive behaviors. But from a standpoint of like someone's just sort of sad and down, like everyone takes a long time to process things, and everyone takes different times to process things. So let people process things the way they want to process things, and don't make it seem like you need to tell them how to process things, because they're going to do it in their own way, and things are going to show up in their own way. And if you read the article that Joanna, the LPC, wrote, she's going to kind of talk about some of this stuff where things are going to manifest themselves in anger and a lot of other things. And that is literally just grief rearing its ugly head in different forms and fashions. And you have to make sure that you're dealing with that appropriately. So I know this is kind of long. I know this is an emotional subject, but unfortunately, when you're dealing with probate and inheritance, and you're dealing with these situations where someone has passed away, most of the time it is a tough subject, and it's okay to seek professional help. It's okay to reach out to people. It's okay to feel the feelings. Like, don't feel like you can't feel the feelings. So hope this helps somebody. And again, if you have a house that you need to sell, you've inherited a property, and you either want a fast, easy cash offer, no BS, you want to sell it with everything in it, you want to sell it as is, you don't want to do anything to it, you just want it gone and done, that's where we can step in at Georgia Probate Resource and Arborview Properties. And wearing my Arborview shirt today. We'd be happy to make you an offer on the house to buy it for cash. Or if you want to go the traditional route, you want to maximize every last dollar you get out of that property. Maybe you've got a property that's in good shape, doesn't need a ton of work, be happy to put it out on the market and sell it for top dollar. I'd love to talk to you about that as well, because I am a licensed real estate agent with One Source in Woodstock here in Georgia. Love to chat with you about that. So I hope this video helped you. Again, the intent of all these videos that I do is really just to help people and help answer their questions, because I know that people are out there dealing with this new frontier of probate and they don't know how to deal with it, and they're just trying to get some help. So hopefully we're helpful here. If we didn't help you, I'm sorry. Maybe we have some other content. Maybe you can find what you're looking for somewhere else. But again, thanks again for your time. I'm Brad with GeorgiaProbateResource.com, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.